All conflicts have their own causes and effects. Think about it. With your spouse, the person you married, doesn't it feel like there's some kind of past connection? Not just marriage partners, even your friends, can make you think that there is a bond between you and them. A person's aura, appearance, and their voice can make you like them. There are people like that, right? Where there is like, there is also dislike, right? Yes, the way someone walks or their voice can make you hate them. Where there is love, there is hate. There's no hate without love. The people you hate now are not necessarily those you once loved. If someone beats up your father, you'll hate him, but you've never loved him, right? So whether we are making friends or choosing a marriage partner, there will be socializing and interaction with these people. That's how it is. That's when you feel like you've known these people for quite a while. For those you like, there will be a sense of familiarity. Everyone experiences this. Has anyone gone through life without ever feeling a good first impression of anyone? It's possible. People like this often lack confidence. They don't get others' recognition, so they refuse to acknowledge anyone. They're somewhat depressed and insecure. That's how it is. They don't feel love, so they don't offer love. This is reasonable, due to some causes and conditions. Many things, I believe, are generally governed by what we call causes and conditions. That is, if we're going into detail. Having some minor conflicts with someone is not enough to show a sense of past connection. But those whom you clash with many times definitely have a karmic connection with you. It's not always love. I'm talking about feelings and emotions. Causes and conditions are affected by good and bad karma. There is also small good karma. When a girl meets a boy she finds pleasing to her eye, she'd want to interact with him. Normal interactions, not love, okay? One could visit an eatery many times because he finds the owner pleasing. This makes sense, right? Also, many people are past the age of drinking coffee, but they might frequent a coffee shop. Why? Maybe because a staff member looks like someone they know. Being there in the coffee shop gives them a kind of spiritual comfort. From looking at someone pleasing to their eye. On the other hand, there are karmic ties formed by bad karma. It's like when you look at someone, you just find them somewhat intimidating. And you feel uneasy when the person is around. This is possible, even for a stranger. Let's try to dig deeper into this. Someone bullied you when you were a child. You grew up and met someone who looks like the bully. Same gender too. A stranger to you. But you will hate that person. It's not a love-hate relationship. There's only hate in this. Have you experienced this before? Names too. You can dislike, or even hate, people with names that you detest. When you're with these people, if you were colleagues with them, You wouldn't think working with them is smooth. Because it's not. It's always awkward for you when you have to work with them. Have you noticed this kind of pattern? There are names you love, maybe because it's the name of your best friend. You like someone because of their name. Sometimes, just hearing a certain name makes you uncomfortable, because someone with that name once hurt you. Later, even if it's a different person with the same name, you still feel resistance. You try to befriend them, but it never works out. And if it does, it just means you got tricked again. The result is still negative. This is Tao, known as the way in English. The way affects how causes and conditions play out. That's how it is. There's a reason for the arising of conditions. Everything happens for a reason. Who you marry, what kind of children you'll have, the illnesses you will experience in your life, how much wealth you will earn, how many true loves you will have, the gender of your children, etc. These are all inevitable causes. This is the concept of causes and conditions. Many have sought all kinds of treatment after being diagnosed with all kinds of illness. They try everything to recover. Later, some came to our centers to practice. Our meditation practice helped with some of their health issues. Many sufferings are inevitable because of the karma we carry. Practicing for a while here helps, temporarily. For example, because of your karma, you have chronic back pain. The pain disappears after you practice a while with us. But sooner or later, it will return. Yes, because your karma is not cleared yet. How can we become truly liberated and healthy? If you experience pain, taking painkillers will only relieve it for, at most, 3 days. After that, it'll return. It's a pain relief, not a cure. Do you want to take painkillers? Or do you want to uproot your pain completely? If you want to uproot the problem completely, then please listen carefully to the following story. Jueshan, please.
Alright, the first story I want to share is called Struck by Lightning. This happened in July 1987. It was a summer day. The weather was very clear, without a cloud in the sky. On a highway in Taiwan, a man was driving north. After passing a small grove of trees by the roadside, he stopped to answer nature's call. Just as he was about to go, the sky, which had been clear, suddenly flashed with lightning, followed by a loud crack. A thunderbolt struck right above his head, killing him instantly. Now, let's talk about who this man was. Why did he suffer as such? This man was named Tsai Rukai, born in Taichung. His father was in the timber business and quite successful. At that time, he even had a factory in Indonesia. The family was well off and quite wealthy. Tsai Rukai was the youngest son in the family. He had 4 older sisters. As you can imagine, in Chinese families, a late-born son is cherished. From childhood, his parents treated him like a gem. His 4 sisters attended to him like his servants. Whatever he wanted, he got it. Eventually, the boy grew up and after his military service, his father entrusted him with the family business. He was expected to make the family proud by expanding the family business. Unexpectedly, he turned out to be someone who was ignorant, lacking knowledge, and arrogant. He was unreasonable. As a result, the family fortune began to decline. His father got anxious and advised him on what he should and shouldn't do. He called his dad outdated and insisted they do it his way. This is how the father and son clashed. He became more arrogant and would get annoyed when his father told him what to do. It escalated to a point where he kicked his parents out of the mansion. His parents became homeless. The 4 daughters weren't any better, as none of them wanted to take in their parents. As such, the elderly couple had to take shelter in a park pavilion, spending the nights there. A Taiwanese police officer saw the old couple, pitied them, and helped them to settle down at a Buddhist temple. The abbot of the temple was very kind. After hearing how they got kicked out of their mansion, he sent someone to invite the unfilial son to the temple. The abbot warned him that his actions would bring divine retribution. And karma is real. With respect, he bowed to the abbot, put his palms together, and promised to treat his parents well. Then, he took his parents back home. But once home, his true nature was revealed. He blamed his parents for damaging his reputation by calling him unfilial to others. As a result, he locked his parents up in a small dark room at home. The elderly couple were humiliated and poorly fed. Then, his father couldn't take it anymore. He cursed his unfilial son, saying that one day, lightning would strike him. And for his 4 unfilial daughters, they will all die miserable deaths and suffer incurable diseases. Those are some deadly curses. The mother collapsed mentally, developed dementia, and passed away not long after. The father suddenly had a stroke from anger. He also passed away not long after. A few months after the passing of the old couple, Sai was driving up north to attend a wedding. While answering nature's call by the groove, he was struck and killed on the spot by a lightning bolt. It was a clear blue sky that day without any clouds. That was his retribution. His sisters and their descendants also suffered as cursed by their old father. They all met unfortunate ends. You know, cancer, AIDS, liver diseases, etc. They lived their lives in poor health. Their next generations also fared poorly. Within just a few years, the family declined and vanished without a trace. This is the first story I want to share with you, about an unfilial son struck by lightning.
In terms of morality in the human world, filial piety toward parents is the greatest and most fundamental virtue a person must have. It is a basic principle for a human being. Raising a child is incredibly hard. If your parents neglected you for even a day, especially when you were little, you could have died. Bitten by a dog, kidnapped, fallen, or choked while eating. A child's life is constantly at risk. Only when you raise a child do you understand your parents' love. When you go through the entire process yourself, you'll realize how much your parents did for you. But often, many young people grow up without feeling grateful for their parents' kindness. They hate their father for being too strict, or their mother because she nags too much. They have only hatred toward their parents, but not love, respect, or understanding. This man, Sai, who was struck dead by lightning, was a real person in Taiwan. I believe those of you from Taiwan have heard this story before. No matter how good you are to others, or how kind you're trying to act, if you lose this fundamental respect and gratitude toward your parents, then I believe all your other morals are just pretenses. If lightning is fated to strike you, it won't miss just because you're good to your friends. This is also taught in the precepts of Buddhism. Those who harm their parents will descend into the relentless hell. In the relentless hell, pain and suffering will not stop. That's why it's called the relentless hell. Pain never stops. Earth might explode and vanish, but the relentless hell will not. And the suffering will continue. The pain is unimaginably immense. You'll be tortured with the greatest pain. But you won't die because you deserve relentless suffering. If you want to be a good and kind person, first learn to be respectful and filial to your parents. Let's listen to the next story.
This story happened in 1948, in the village of Tampin, Malaysia. In those days, people generally lived in poverty. There was a farmer named Chong. He ran an orchard. He tended the orchard every day, harvesting fruits and vegetables to sell. One day, Chong was busy in the orchard as usual, when he suddenly spotted a rather large pangolin. In those times of scarcity, even pangolins were caught and eaten. Chong called his 3 sons to help catch it. The pangolin saw them coming, and immediately burrowed into a hole in the mountain. Chong and his 3 sons used various tools to dig and pour water into the hole. But it was all in vain. The pangolin just stayed hidden inside the hole. Those guys could do nothing. At that time, Chong's 39-year-old wife was just over 4 months pregnant. Seeing such a commotion, she wanted to help. Though physically limited, she was quick-witted. She had a plan, which was staking branches at the entrance of the hole, lighting them up, and forcing the pangolin to come out. If the fire couldn't kill it, the smoke would force it to come out. Chong and his sons followed her advice. They started a fire, and it burned for a long time. Still, they couldn't force the pangolin out. In the end, they gave up. They thought the pangolin might have suffocated inside. So the whole family went home. 5 months later, the lady gave birth. She delivered at home. Everyone was shocked when they saw the child. No one congratulated the family. They feared what they saw. Then, the mother asked to see her child. When she saw her newborn daughter, she screamed and fainted. What kind of baby girl could terrify everyone so much? It turned out that she gave birth to a pangolin girl. This baby's skin and complexion were exactly like a pangolin's. Her body was covered in scales. Her face was pointed, her mouth was unusually protruding. She didn't have one single body hair, only a body full of scales. Soon, news of this strange baby spread throughout the village. Everyone heard that Chang's family had given birth to a freak. They came to demand the family hand over the monster. They believed the birth of an ominous creature would bring disaster to the entire village and affect everyone. The parents, of course, though frightened by their daughter's appearance, could not bear to let the villagers have their daughter. They lied to the villagers, saying the freak had died right after she was born. Everyone returned home. The couple kept the girl in a secret room at home, and she was never allowed to see the daylight. They named their daughter Simei because she was the fourth child in the family. The girl was locked up until she was 10. She had never seen the sky or left the house. Only the family knew this secret. When Simei was 10 years old, her father fell seriously ill. His condition was severe, and he was near death. Before his death, he was in great pain. In his final moment, he was accompanied by Simei at his bedside. He wished that both of them could leave the world together. He knew that such a special child would only suffer in this world, and she would never find happiness. Therefore, he could not bear to leave his daughter alone to continue suffering in life. In the end, he passed away with resentment. The young Simei did not understand her father's pain. Time passed. In the year 1982, Simei, who was born in 1948, was nearly 40 years old. Only after more than 30 years did the villagers learn that the freak from back then had not died. It had been living in the house they raided years ago. There, the villagers gathered again, wanting to see the freak. When they saw Simei, they found that although she looked strange, she had no intention of harming others, as she'd never been outside since childhood. The villagers gave up and did not demand her execution. You could see that the villagers were not so evil, after all. Everyone who had seen her would be having nightmares. Her appearance was truly terrifying, a pangolin's face, completely hairless, and covered in scales. She had no eyelids, her eyes were round like fish eyes, with red rings around them, like iron bands. Her nose bridge was flat, and her lips protruded. Her teeth jutted out like fangs. Overall, she indeed looked somewhat like a pangolin. Since Simei's existence had been exposed to the public, her mother simply took her to see a doctor. The dermatologists and experts she'd seen reached the same conclusion: no cure. What a strange coincidence. I mean, during the mother's pregnancy, the men in the family were hunting a pangolin, and the mother even suggested burning it alive. And the daughter born later actually looked like a pangolin. This is a true story that happened in Malaysia. It's a story about the pangolin girl.
This story sounds quite disturbing. When you eat, have you ever thought about what kind of animal you are eating? Have you ever thought about what could happen to you? It'd be troublesome if people ate pork and became pigs themselves. We tend to think that since we are not animals, we don't understand them. Think about it. whether as a child or an adult. Wouldn't we feel angry when people hurt us? If people tried to kill us, would we hold any hatred? This woman, Simei, coincidentally, suffered because her family tried to kill a pangolin. It really made me reflect deeply on her story. People don't become pigs just because they eat pork, right? But this story did happen. So what's the lesson behind it? If we wanted an answer for things we can't explain clearly, then karma, or causes and conditions, it is. This woman's case is obvious. Look at her appearance. She looks like the pangolin they tried to kill previously. There seems to be some kind of symbolic connection. This doesn't happen to everyone who takes another life. Appearance-wise, it might not happen. Does your child become a pig if you slaughter a pig and make stew out of it? It might not happen. But what if the pig holds resentment? In that case, you might have a sore throat all the time. When slaughtering animals, you slit the throat of the animal, right? We were in Malaysia before, and many stories told were like this. A family raised chickens and ducks, and they slit their throats a lot. So the illnesses their family got were all related to this. Throat cancer, esophageal cancer, and oral cancer. There were also traffic accidents causing neck fractures. There were many such cases. These disasters are brought by karma. It's not so straightforward. Killing a pig doesn't mean you become a pig, but you will suffer because of it. You suffer in various ways. For example, your children will disappoint you, or you might get divorced. Or you might fall from wealth into poverty. Various painful things can happen. This is possible. It's the other party's desire for revenge. You might not become what you harm, but you will definitely suffer. My mood is kind of heavy now, but I still want to hear the next story.
The next story is called The Special Delicacy. It's a story that happened in Thailand. In a village, there was a couple and 3 well-behaved children. The children were very young, just a few years old. Though very poor, they were still happy. They had their own home, which was like a bamboo stilt house. At that time, there was no running water. They fetched drinking water from the river and stored water in the 3 large jars at home. The jars were placed beside their bamboo house. The area was shaded by trees. That's how they stored water. One day, a fire suddenly broke out. Because the house was built with bamboo and wood, it quickly caught fire and burned fast. The villagers all rushed over to help put out the fire. In the chaos, everyone forgot about the water jars. Also, since there was a river close by, everyone ran to the river to fetch water to extinguish the fire. The adults were all busy, and they forgot about the 3 children. The 3 children were trying to escape on their own. The eldest brother was quite clever. He told his siblings that if they hid in the water jars, the fire would not harm them. He placed his little brother into one jar, covered it with a lid, and placed his little sister into another jar, and covered it with a lid, and he jumped into the 3rd jar, and covered it with a lid as well. The adults were kept busy with putting out the fire. They still couldn't put out the fire after a long time. The house had already collapsed into ruins. By then, it was already dark, and checking out the ruins was hard. At that moment, the parents suddenly remembered their 3 children. They searched everywhere, but it was pitch dark. They found nothing. They had to wait until the next day. At dawn, the villagers helped them search again. There, someone discovered the jars under the ruins. They were covered by the debris. The lids were also burned to a mess. The lids were made of wood and bamboo, so they caught fire easily. There was a child in each jar, they'd been boiled to death. Yes, the 3 children. When they hid inside the water jars, the fire wasn't that strong yet. It kept growing stronger, and heated the water inside the jars. The children had no way to escape, and were boiled to death in the jars. The parents sat on the ground, heads bowed in despair. No one knew how sad they were. If only just their house was gone, they could rebuild it. But we're talking about the lives of their 3 children. How could they go on with life like this? It was utter despair. In Thailand, there is a long-standing Buddhist tradition. Seeing that they'd no hope in life anymore, the couple thought of becoming monks in the temple. On their way to the temple, the father kept blaming himself. That it was his karmic retribution. That the lives of his children were taken away. He kept muttering all the way. He was saying the same thing at the temple. Then, the temple abbot asked him what made him say that. What was the truth behind it? Apparently, the father loved cooking. Every spring, he'd go to the ponds and the ridges between rice fields to catch the small fish fry. In spring, the fish fry are very tender. After that, he'd bring them home and keep them in clean water. Then, he'd cut water spinach in sections and cook it together with the fish in a pot. With the water temperature rising, the fish would find their way into the hollow stems of the water spinach. But as the water kept boiling, the fish inside the water spinach would be stewed into a delicious soup. This dish was said to be exceptionally tasty. He'd done this many times. He caught these small fish often to make this special delicacy. Once, while he was fishing, 2 big fish jumped out and landed on the ridge. They looked at the father with desperation and opened their mouths wide, like this. It was like a silent plea, asking him to spare the lives of their babies. But the father showed no mercy at all, and ended up catching the 2 big fish. It was a day with bountiful catch. The small fish and 2 big fish. The family enjoyed the meal. Looking back, he recalled his tragic fate. His 3 adorable children, hid in the water jars but were boiled to death. Just like those small fish fry back then, they died being boiled to death. So the couple told the abbot about the karmic retribution for what they'd done. As for the couple, they spent the rest of their lives in the temple, repenting endlessly. That's all, thank you, Master.
This one is disturbing and terrifying too. Whether it's a mom at home or a chef in a restaurant, they're always trying to please the people eating. They want others to see Look how clever I am. I came up with a new dish. This is a story from Thailand. In Southeast Asia, fishing in rivers is a common practice. He thought he was smart, using heat to make the fish hide in the hollow stems of the water spinach. Only a mad scientist could think of this. How could anyone come up with such an absurd idea? Perhaps his idea came from observing the fish a lot. I believe he truly did not expect that it would bring such consequences. Look at how his 3 children boiled to their deaths in those water jars. In many Southeast Asian countries, in the past, people stored water from nature, such as rainwater or water from rivers, in water jars in their yards. More jars meant more stored water. No one expected that one day their house would be on fire, killing the 3 children. They died the way their father cooked those fish. It's similar, right? I remember it was mentioned in the Earth Store Sutra. In one of the lifetimes, Earth Store Bodhisattva's mother craved fish roe, right? Fish roe and small fish are quite similar, and she was banished to hell. This story and the one the Buddha told are very similar. There's one truth not many realize. All things have a spirit. That's how it is. When we harm a fish roe or small fish, or even a tiny pigeon egg. As humans, we convince ourselves that we are omnivores. We eat everything. Eating everything you find to survive is not a sin. Even more so when you're raising your children. But still, we have to take the era we live in and economic conditions into consideration, right? For example, when the harvest is poor, farmers have no crops to harvest and face starvation. As such, people eat anything they find. This is still understandable. When I started spreading Dharma in the 1990s, I went to Guangzhou, Guangdong province once. Guangzhou had a population of at least 10 million back then. Restaurants were everywhere. Many restaurants tried to attract customers by making themselves look like zoos. Some even served peacocks. They were made into stews. I think there were pangolins too. There were some animals in southern China that I had never seen before. This is strange. Guangdong, at that time, certainly did not lack food, but people were attracted to wild game they'd never tasted before. In life, there are things one can do and can't do. What does this mean? Some things are acceptable, some are not. There are certain norms people must follow. If they're ignored, troubles might arise. Animals are spiritual, just like us. Long-lived ones, such as turtles and fish, have even more powerful spirits. If one happens to kill and eat a highly spiritual being that has lived over hundreds of years, it'd be very troublesome. I'm not trying to scare you, because you might have eaten some before. That is not my intention. Fear is a feeling. You can be scared listening to our stories. Like I said, in times of great disasters and famines. It would be understandable to eat anything you find. When you don't lack food at all, you don't need to be obsessed with eating these said animals. They contain no special nutrients for your body to stay healthy. The rarer the animal, the rarer its DNA and pathogens are, making it more deadly. That explains it, right? Malaysia is a tropical region, so it has all kinds of animals. I saw it myself on my way to Henteng Highlands. Not the casino, but halfway there. I think it's called Cameron Highlands. On the way, I saw a monitor lizard. It was longer than a pig, at least 2 meters long, with a waist as thick as a bucket. They can be aggressive and are reminiscent of dragons. I saw one crossing the road. I was happy and excited to see it, but also a bit scared. Some people catch and eat them. If they're not harming you, and you have plenty to eat, then why do you kill them for food? Can you withstand what's going to befall you? I'm not talking about digestion. Can these said animals bring you health? You've never thought about that, right? From now on, whatever you eat, whether it's a piece of bamboo shoot or a mooncake, ask yourself, can you withstand what's going to befall you? This will help avoid problems that arise. You should hold a sense of reverence for the world. We have more good stories coming up.
The world is full of sufferings. This is actually because human nature contains much evil. What kind of pain is heartbreaking? It is when families are torn apart and destroyed. When traffickers kidnap and sell young children. People shall suffer hell on earth. This agony, worse than death, breaks parents' hearts. The kidnapped children also endure endless torment. This is the reason why traffickers are hated so much. Next, let's listen to a story about human trafficking. Watch how justice is served. It took place in Sichuan Province, China, around 1986 to 1992. At that time, traffickers were especially rampant. Among them was a woman named Peng Hongjiu. She and her husband organized a human trafficking criminal gang. From 1986 to 1992, for nearly 6 to 7 years, their gang trafficked more than 80 boys and girls. This destroyed 85 families. In addition, they also trafficked over a dozen women. The police cracked down on the gang and arrested everyone involved. They captured 44 criminals, led by Peng's husband. This was a gratifying outcome. It was such a pity that Peng managed to escape during the operation. Though a woman, Peng was extremely bold in crime. She'd trafficked over a dozen children herself. She even trafficked a pregnant woman. She'd committed an atrocious crime. Kidnapping a pregnant woman is akin to destroying a new hope in the woman's family. This shows how ruthless Peng was. She escaped amid the chaos during the arrest. And in 1980s China, there was no big data, network systems, or widespread surveillance cameras. The police didn't even have a single photo of Peng. The police had a hard time tracking her down after her escape, because they couldn't identify her appearance. Finding Peng was like finding a needle in a haystack. But the police knew how dangerous and ruthless Peng was. And that if she remained free, she might continue her crimes and keep trafficking children. The police vowed to bring her to justice. Starting in 1993, they'd lie in ambush around her home. As the Lunar New Year was looming, Peng herself had 3 daughters. Her youngest was only a year and a half old. The police suspected that as a mother, she might miss her daughters and return home to visit during the new year. What an irony. She kidnapped other people's children, but cared for her own daughters. For over 10 years, the police lay in ambush around her home every new year. But they never caught her. Still, they never gave up. Their perseverance was truly admirable. 11 years later, when the police received a lead on Peng from another case, finally, there was a chance to catch this notorious woman. A team was led immediately to a remote and impoverished village in Shaanxi Province, Duoying Village. Peng was finally arrested and brought to justice. Here's the question. Of all the places, why did Peng, a Sichuan native, flee to Shaanxi? And how was she discovered? The moment she was handcuffed, Peng exhaled deeply and sighed softly. I'm finally free. This puzzled the police. During the interrogation, she revealed everything about her escape. She was very cunning when she fled. She escaped directly from Sichuan to hide in Inner Mongolia. That's why the police couldn't find her for so long. Years later, she was indeed homesick, missing her 3 daughters. She was missing her daughters deeply, her maternal instinct still intact. She thought after all these years, the heat had passed, and she'd been forgotten by everyone. She took a risk, got on a train, and sneaked back home. At that time, China's railways were not as developed as they are now. Traveling from Inner Mongolia to Sichuan required multiple transfers. On the train, she met someone claiming to be a fellow Sichuan native. They had a pleasant conversation. For sure, Peng did not reveal her true identity. She only said she wanted to go home to see her daughter. What she did not expect was that the seemingly warm-hearted fellow from Sichuan was also a human trafficker. 2 traffickers met on the train, each with their own agenda. During a transfer, Peng was sold by the so-called Sichuan native for 3,500 yuan to a shepherd in Shaanxi. What an irony and karmic retribution. The trafficker, Peng Hongjiu, trafficked and sold by another trafficker. She was sold to Shaanxi, to the remotest and poorest village, Duoying, becoming the wife of an old shepherd. During interrogation, police learned that in those 11 years, she had only bathed 3 times in total. She never had a decent meal. There were a lot of chores for her to do. If things went wrong, the old shepherd would whip her. She had caused many children and women to suffer all kinds of pain after kidnapping them. Later, she herself suffered more pain than what she'd caused. When she was arrested, she was suffering from a stroke. She was paralyzed on one side. Her husband never took her to see a doctor. Only after her arrest was she provided with some treatment. But she was no longer able to move normally. Peng was brought back to Sichuan. Even though 11 years had passed, the trauma she caused locally back then remained unchanged. When the news broke, the neighborhoods emptied. Everyone came out to see this woman full of evil deeds. Peng was spat on and humiliated, almost beaten up too. In the end, she was sentenced to death, and thousands applauded. Before the execution, she asked to see her 3 daughters. But her daughters and elderly father all refused to see her. She caused so many parents to be separated from their children. Now she herself will never see her beloved children again. This story tells us that all pain and sufferings truly stem from the evil in the human heart. The evil deeds of Peng and her husband brought so much pain to the world. Before she was caught and brought to justice, she was sold by another human trafficker, and suffered the same pain she caused. Her execution meant justice was served. This is the story of the human trafficker Poon Hongjiu.
The important thing is, everything that happens, good or bad, has its own causes and conditions. Where there is a cause, there will be an effect. Sakyamuni Buddha gave us hope by making us believe that fate is real, and that we should remain hopeful, because fate can be changed. We must realize that to liberate ourselves from pain and sufferings, and not be troubled by issues that stem from our family, children, marriage, etc. The only possible way is to do good deeds. Be a compassionate and kind person. The 4 stories mentioned earlier are proof of this. They're not made up, they're real. The first was the unfilial son. The last was the woman who trafficked people, destroying not just her own family, but other families too. A trafficker eventually got trafficked. She deceived many and became a victim to a con artist. Eventually, she got conned and sold. I bet she never expected this. This is karma. She suffered what she caused unto others. She was living a life worse than that of animals. Here's a story from Vancouver, Canada. This happened 20 years ago. At that time, I didn't have that many followers yet. I knew a couple who had learned from me in China before. At that time, they were relatively young, about the same age as me. They often said they wanted to buy a house. They had saved enough money. They looked around for nearly 5 years, and still couldn't find a decent one. They weren't very picky, and their basic requirements weren't high. They viewed at least 200 houses, but found issues with all of them and couldn't buy any. The young couple told me it's not that they were stingy, and they were willing to spend too. They were not asking for too much, but they just couldn't find a house they were happy with. They came to me for help, and I tried to read their fortune. I saw something, but I couldn't tell whose fault it was at the time. This was what I saw. One of them, or both, enjoyed destroying others' houses. For example, beehives. Yes, destroying beehives. Or messing with ant hills. When destroying beehives, I saw they used fire. For ant hills, I saw boiling water and sulfuric acid were used, like a scientific experiment, adding more vinegar, some soy sauce, some chili, and a bit of pepper powder, and so on. They felt so much joy when they saw many ants crawling out of the hills. The ants became homeless. The same happened to the bees, homeless because of them. Was it that each was affected by their partner's antics, such that they couldn't find a house? It started as the husband's foolish idea, then the wife joined in. Hives and hills were destroyed not for money, but for fun. They found so much joy pouring hot water onto the ant hills. Later, both of them repented. They did it sincerely, and they managed to buy a house later. But having caused so many insects to become homeless, they might suffer the same pain they once caused. Like what? If they burned a hive before, their house might catch fire. It took them 7 years to buy a house, and it caught fire 3 years later. Fortunately, in Vancouver, homeowners always have insurance. The insurance company compensated them. Then, about half a year later, there was a leak after they'd gone to work. It was a small, two-story house. A burst drain pipe from the master bedroom upstairs was leaking sewage into the first floor rooms. It was all dirty water with feces. This is similar to what they did. They poured water on ant hills, right? It was their karma. More will come because they destroyed many ant hills. That's how it is. They sounded like Buddhists when they talked to me. But what they did was so evil. They deserve to be punished. They blamed me for not teaching them about karma. How would I know they'd find so much joy in harming insects? I didn't spend a lot of time with them. And I'd no idea they'd do this. Who told them to do it? They both said it was just for fun. Their immoral behavior required deep repentance. If not, more karmic retributions will follow. It could lead to the destruction of the whole family. Sometimes, when doing something we think might benefit us, we often think selfishly that it's okay to harm others. So we need to seriously think about this. Like pangolins, there are many other animals. You don't need to eat to stay healthy. What nutrients do pangolins provide? You've no idea, right? It has nothing to do with nutrition. You're just killing and eating these animals for fun. All right. If you were that pangolin, and someone would treat you like that, would you forgive them? You wouldn't, right? People do a lot of things that are actually meant to hurt others on purpose. Some people are happy watching others suffer. Some are happy when they make bees and ants homeless. I saw a video online. Someone found a large ant colony and poured molten aluminum inside. They made an artwork out of it. After the casting was cooled down and dug out, a colony with intricate branches was revealed. It looked clearer when the dirt was washed off. When you pour molten aluminum into an ant colony, you kill tens of thousands of ants. Who would call that an art piece? Will you be affected by the karmic retributions that follow? Many are not aware how karma plays out. After destroying an ant hill and killing all the ants in it, what will happen to you? You've no idea, right? Could you go insane 3 years later? No one knows. Why do some people suddenly become crazy for no reason? Why do some suddenly jump off buildings? There are also incredibly clever people who become victims of scams. These people don't make offerings to gods. So who could make them spill out their money? They're smart people, but within 5 days, all their savings are scammed away. It's not that they lack intelligence, it's their karmic retribution. Earning money to buy a house is not a sin. It's the money you earn through hard work. Some people work 2 or 3 jobs, and after saving for 20 years, it's time to buy a house. Before they are able to buy it, All that money is gone, swindled by scammers. People are not that easy to swindle. But at the crucial moments, some people let their guard down. It's not that the scammers are clever. It's their karmic retribution. Have you all heard of ghostly illusions? The term sounds a bit scary. What are ghostly illusions? Several people have told me about it. It can happen to any of us. When people go to a place they're not familiar with, whether walking or driving, they try every possible way, especially at night. They look for signs, writing down house numbers, GPS, etc. It's like a maze. They keep returning to the same spot. After circling for hours, they're still trapped, constantly wandering in the same area, within a 2-kilometer radius. What are ghostly illusions? It's like some unseen forces, covering up the exits with illusionary walls, making them invisible to you. Many have experienced being trapped by ghostly illusions. When you're experiencing intense pain, it's because of the harm you've caused others previously. For example, killing a colony of ants. Ants are tiny. How could they bring so much pain when karmic retributions befall us? The Buddha said all beings are equal. Killing 10,000 ants is like killing 10,000 people. That's how it is. Aren't all beings equal? Just like gender equality, right? If you can wipe out an entire ant colony, you'd better be ready when karma manifests. Because there will be consequences. You can't avoid it. Back to the couple. I told them what I saw and asked them to make offerings. They asked me why they should spend money. So I told them about their karma. Then they asked, what does it have to do with us now? They doubted what I said. They didn't believe me. I told them what I saw, but they were not aware of the problems they had. I was honest. I didn't just make things up. Was there a way out? Sometimes, I couldn't see any. I told them there would be disasters. They wanted me to help, so I told them a solution. I told them what could be done to resolve the disasters that might befall them. And they, like many others, didn't believe me. They thought I was trying to scam them. If I did, karma would find me. Have you thought about that? Who would dare to do that? I wouldn't dare. A monk can help the deceased find peace. But what if they had too much hatred to move on? You don't want to be haunted by them, unless you've no idea how damaging they can be. You could become crazy, or you could jump into the river and drown. When I help, I always speak the truth. That's how it is. Then, some would listen and do what I asked of them. Some are too stingy to make light offerings. They prefer offering incense because it's a lot cheaper. And guess what? They make big wishes, wishes that are so big. Like hoping to find a job that pays $100,000 a year. And what do they offer? 3 incense sticks. When there is significant karma involved, no incense or Buddha can help you. That's how it is. Some have no way out. Some can be helped but don't want to be helped, because they don't believe me. I'm not asking you to believe me. I just want to tell stories and deliver lessons. These 4 stories are real. They are stories from the past few decades. The trafficker was executed just last year. You can look it up online. It's true, executed last year. There is a question which I think is quite funny. If one day a disaster is about to happen, like sitting in a car that's about to crash, what would you do? Chant a Buddha's name? You might be startled, your mind goes blank, and you might forget how to chant. You'd chant if you're a bit sharp, but sometimes chanting won't save you. This can happen if you have taken too many lives in this lifetime, or in some lifetimes in the past. Some haven't taken that many lives, but they're unfilial to their parents, so karma will find them too. Chanting, in these cases, is useless. When death is near, it's too late to chant. No master can save you when your cancer has reached stage 4. That's how it is. By stage 4, it has spread throughout the body. You can only wait to die. Nothing can be done. If you had the ability to read fortune, you might see that someone is about to face a disaster, but that person himself is unaware of it. As a result, they don't care. So I tell this to everyone, including many senior practitioners. I'm glad they understand and choose to do good deeds, practice, and chant regularly. If, in the future, you wish to be reborn in the grandest realm of Buddhist faith, the Pure Lands, then you're going to need more merits and less bad karma. It's true, the Western Pure Lands would cleanse the bad karma you're carrying. But if your bad karma is too heavy, you still won't make it. You must accumulate more merits. You can't sin too much and accumulate too much bad karma. Sin less and gain more merits. This is how you'll reach the Pure Lands instantly. That is why many elders pass away peacefully. They and their families see the Buddhas guiding them. This is for those who seek rebirth in the Pure Lands. You need to cultivate your mind, practice, and accumulate merits. It's best to clear away your karma as much as possible. Carrying more merits is always better than having too much bad karma. Even if you're not that old, you'd wish for your family and yourself to be auspiciously blessed. Think carefully about the stories we shared today. Ask yourself, have you harmed others? If yes, then are you forgiven already? All right, that concludes today's lesson. Thank you, all.
在茫茫人海之中，让我与您相遇。小小的红点里，人生就此欢喜。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了。在茫茫人海之中，让我与你相遇。小小的红点里，人生变得神奇。我智慧了，我快